just going to ask for $50,000 up front. And
Is that what they're doing?
yeah, I'm going to have one more conversation tomorrow, but Tracy is saying it's going to be $200,000, no more, and we're already committed to $150,000. So I'm thinking at this point we just say $50,000.
Okay. That's an easy change.
Broadcast is live.
When, like right now?
No.
Oh, okay.
In a while.
In a while. All right. But thank you very much. Good luck to you. Are you ready, Mrs. Rick? Okay. All right. It is 6:40, Tuesday, September 4th, 2018. City Council for the City of Woodland will be retreating to an executive session, RCW 42.30.110, Section B, to consider selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause likelihood of increased price. That's me. We'll be in executive session for approximately 15 minutes. The what? Oh, okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Nothing's changed. But I'll send a refresh version.
Okay. Do you need to? I have comments from yours from, I think, the pre-app, and I can't imagine.
I'll just send it for the first one. Or you're looking for phase 2.
Phase 2 is really the one I'm looking for. Yeah. And actually, yours is the easy one because you probably don't have much comment about phase 2 either. Well, no.
There's one building that's
Oh,
and we
okay.
don't know much about hydrants.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No problem. Thank you.
And that's, I was trying to, in the talk process, that's where, do you want comments at every point, or just at land use and the building,
Yeah.
we can figure out what works.
Really, at the land use, if you have findings and conditions of approval until they apply for a building permit, I don't know that I need you to weigh in much on.
Because this is a land use, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what you can talk about. Hydrants, vertical configurations, land
And at this point, we're talking.
use. The more notice they have, the better.
And at this point, we're talking property lines and parking designs and landscaping. Their individual buildings they'll apply for building permits, and so that's when you'll. But yeah, I mean, other than a note on the face of the plat that they all need to be sprinkled and hydrant spacing, that's the stuff we need to know before they put in the cement for the parking, right? Yeah, yeah. Dave forgot his, but Carl's wearing his.
Well, guess what? Yeah, sure. And then they'll probably want tutus because everybody
Yes,
will
I
be
went
wanting
to
to battle
managers'
the
meeting.
big winners.
I just put in, we were talking about.
Was there even
park
enough to have
improvements, and I was
left?
just talking about the bocce ball court, a lawn. I'm all
Oh, on the
over
fire
it
side,
now.
yeah.
I don't know. I like the challenge of like off-road riding.
And it was better than last year because we were playing on real grass instead of dry grass. That was like playing on dirt. I love that. Oh yeah, of course. That's fun.
So with this one,
City of Beaverton is putting some in their park. Yep.
Well,
Does it have the right date on it now?
We're coming in by front. I'm gonna try not
He wasn't there. He wouldn't do anything for you.
No, it's not.
That's no excuse.
No, just the regular stuff. It's just these couple little things. And I read through
You know
all
what?
these. I mean,
He doesn't have any proof that he was there last year, so I don't believe that for a second.
Well, I think JJ posted on Facebook. He gets dumped by the 4-year-old.
You're so tall, you didn't even go underwater when you fell in.
Oh, no, I did. I made sure I set my leg. I'm playing a game. Tracy.
Sorry, I had to miss that.
So,
I don't know what I was just reading. What I was I don't know. I was just, when I was reading through this, I just was reading through
Plead ignorance and listen to what he has to say.
Oh, no. Jim's got it right now.
so he's concerned that the comp plan amendment
because you're special.
stuff that he's been involved in is like major public outreach kind of thing. Like Clark County for GMA, really litigious population, and so it's totally problematic. And they'll spend $2 million on their update. I don't know that we are in Othello. When I wrote their comprehensive plan for the first time in 20 years, it was like 6 monthly meetings, and I did 90% of the work.
It is 7:05. Mrs. Rip, are you ready? Yes. All right. It is 7:05, September 4th, 2018. Regular meeting for the City of Woodland. Please silence your cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I just found my pen. All right, Mrs. Rip, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Graham,
Here.
Councilmember Rounds,
Here.
Councilmember Plaza,
Here.
Councilmember Chapman,
Here.
Councilmember Humbert, Councilmember Fredericks. Mr. Fredericks has called in absent. He's asking to be excused. Councilmember Benjamin.
Here.
All right, everyone's present except for Mr. Fredericks. Chair will accept a motion to excuse Mr. Fredericks. He did call in and has repeatedly informed us that he would not be here this evening.
I make a motion to approve his absence.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Humbert. Will the clerk please take the vote to excuse Mr. Fredericks?
Councilmember Plaza,
Aye.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin,
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman,
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Fredericks has been excused. We have no presentations or proclamations this evening. Moving on to citizen communications for items not on the agenda. And we have Mrs. Johnson. Hello, Mrs. Johnson. How are you? I haven't seen you in forever. I've been gone. Well, welcome. What can we do for you this evening?
Johnson, people about 1608 Woodland. But we're having, one thing on the chamber, we're having all of our political discussions and or debates or where we bring both candidates in. It's extremely interesting for people to do because Susan is usually at the meetings also. And anyway, we're going to have a big one with Jamie and Carolyn Long debate, and that's on September 18th, and it's from 12 to 1. And I want to personally invite everybody. We are getting calls from anti-nuclear people. We're getting calls. I mean, it's going to be a big one, and I've already requested.
I was going to say, have you spoken to the chief?
Yeah, no, I've already requested that we have the chief present because sometimes in many of the debates, that you try to shout down people, and we tell them to go out, and I think with a policeman, someone there, that'd be more apt to listen to the person that's telling them to leave, but also the old tree will tell us. So that's number one. Then I wanted to come back because I'm going to keep bugging you guys as many council meetings as I can about impact fees and stuff like that. And I keep telling you that Woodland has kind of a bad reputation against businesses, but I've never really told you why that is, in my opinion. And first off, we belong to the Longview Transportation Club, which has businesses from Vancouver to Longview and all in between Kalama. And a lot of them deal with transportation. But we have the industries, Capstone, we have the industries there too. And Jim and I go, and we're usually the only ones from Woodland. And many times we're kind of a laughing stock, and we don't like that, and we protest it. But when Woodland put in roundabouts, which you know that's a favorite subject of mine, roundabouts at our only good entrance into the industrial area, it was pointed out that there was no other area in the state and almost the nation where the main entrance to an industrial area had roundabouts. So that made us look silly. Secondly, well then, we narrowed the road. You know, trucking companies, industries like wide roads. And we took Sherman Way and cut 6 feet off of it, moved the curve. And I cannot tell you the harassing that Jim and I got going there. You know, what's Woodland going to do next? What's Woodland going to do next? And the comment was, don't they care at all about the businesses on that road that have truck traffic? Don't they care at all about bringing new industry in? That's what we're facing. Now, we can't change the past, but we can do something in the future. And that's why I think, and I kind of told you last time, and I won't repeat myself on how we could do it and still get money into the funds, the different buckets of funds. But if we could do something where we actually say, Woodland is taking a better look at industry, at commercial, at family wage jobs. And I think that the publicity alone would create interest within our area. And they have industries, they go to Kalama, they go elsewhere. Well, there's a reason for that. And I think that we need to be very proactive in doing that. We also have where we're going to want more residential here. And I think it's a huge mistake for Woodland to become a bedroom community. It's any place I've ever been and any place you ever read about, a bedroom community can't afford all the services that people need. And the only way you can get it where you have good police departments, good schools, good that is when you have some industry to help cover those costs. So I don't want to be a bedroom community. I want to make Woodland more businesses and encourage them to come here. And I think that you guys have the power to do it, and I think that the people, I think it's a good thing, and I hope they just consider doing it.
Thank you, Mrs.
Any
Johnson.
questions?
We don't take questions from the panel, just me, but just so you know, when we talk about the chamber update, if you look down at my report, I've got it on there listed under me for now. Until we hit a meeting with council to change council rules. Council rules have to be changed in order for that to be its own line item. So for now, I've been putting it under my report and then asking whoever's up here at the Thames Chamber to give that report. So,
I didn't-
no, that's fine.
I was looking for just the heading, and I've been sending out, I hope you're all getting it, I've been
Yes.
sending out to all of you when we have the political, when I think it's something that I think you ought to attend, and it's usually the political things, and we're book solid, and people are asking us, and they call us now, so.
How did it go today?
I thought excellent. Carol? Yeah, I thought excellent. And you know what was so neat? You could see two completely different points of view on very important issues. Very important issues. So it gives the voter an opportunity to decide which side, which issues they are involved in and what they want to actually, they would vote for.
Nice.
So, and that's what the whole basis of. And I think it's going to be good. When Jamie comes, we've even gotten the school wanting some of the students to come, and they wanted like 45, but we really only are saying we could accommodate 5. Because, and I'd love to have it where we could accommodate them all, because most of these, it's good to get them involved in issues like this, but so maybe next time.
Good. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Kluge. I see we have some of your participants on council this evening from your event last. I'm not. I'm just, this is about the third meeting I've been to that I've had to look at this. And the bragging that's happening. Go ahead. Please state your name.
I am Shirley Kluge. I live at 1774 Meriwether Lane in Woodland. Yeah, I wanted to just give a brief report here tonight and acknowledge some folks. I'll acknowledge first Police Chief Kelly, who conducted himself admirably on a cold day for his second year in the thing. And we really, really appreciate it. He even says he will do it again next year and play. If the mayor will make sure he doesn't have to work.
Okay.
And then I gave a plea and a challenge here, was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, I think so. And several people responded. Benjamin Fredericks, who's not here, Dave Plaza, Carl Chapman, and Travis Goddard. They formed a team. They bought you all, and they whipped everybody's butt.
I don't think you're supposed to say that. That's okay. Too late.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Well, anyway, we so appreciate their participation. It wasn't any fun for me. I had to work the whole time, but I think everybody else had a lot of fun. And because of these teams and the generous sponsors from our community, last year, our first annual volleyball tournament, we made just over $600, and this year we made over $3,000.
That was awesome. Nice job. Nice job.
Really thrilled. And I wanted to let you all know that there is going to be an asset auction of items within the old funeral home. It's coming right up. There will be 2 viewing dates. One will be this Thursday, September 6th, and another will be Monday, September 10th. Both of those will be from 4 to 7 p.m. And then bidding will take place online, and that will start this Thursday at 4 p.m. and it will end, I didn't get that far. Monday, I can't be right. Okay, it'll end one of those days after that at 5 p.m. If you want to know more, you can look at the Fort Vancouver Regional Library District website or contact Jennifer Cowan, our librarian. But, yeah, this is part of the way to make some money from that building, help pay for it. And so if you want a piece of word in history or just to see things before it's gone, please feel free to come.
Mrs. Kluge, would it be possible to get an update from the presentation from the library on plans and timelines? Are we that far along yet with this project? We're not. Okay. Once we have that timeline, can we have someone come back to council and give a 5 to 7 minute presentation?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
will talk to our librarian and be delighted to do that.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Kluge.
Oh, and I meant to say, I can't stay on the equipment,
Oh,
but I just wanted to tell you all the good stuff. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for all you do. I do have a photo that's of the chief, and I'm not quite sure if those are swim trunks or I'm not quite sure what you're wearing, Chief, but well done, I think.
Guess you had to show up to see.
Well, we're going to pass that around.
You guys like that.
Oh, and we will be getting pictures to you as well.
Thank you. That's funny. I took a turn last year, but it was a 1,000-degree day outside, so it felt good. But, yeah. No one else has signed up for items not on the agenda. If you failed to do so at the beginning of the meeting, now's your opportunity to step forward. All right, seeing no takers. Moving on to items on the agenda. Cody Roy is the only one for items on the agenda. Yes, please step forward. State your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Cody Roy. My address is 3204 East Scott Avenue. And I'm here regarding the letter that we received about the proposed ordinance for garbage and recycling increases. And I actually didn't come to say anything, I came to be educated. So when I got the letter, I just wondered who was making the proposal. I wasn't sure. And Darlene mentioned it might just be in reference to the CPI. And I didn't know that. And then I wondered where my money was going, if it was to the waste disposal stuff we have a contract with, or it's going to the city. And I certainly don't have a problem paying to have my garbage taken away. But I have had it a couple of different times when my garbage hasn't been taken away, and I had to jump through hoops to find the right number to call to take care of it. That's happened twice, not to exaggerate, at least twice in the last year that I worked there. So then that kind of makes me think, well, anyway, that raised my curiosity just about where the proposal came from and where my money is going.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And as I go through the agenda here, it's going to be an action item, and that will be discussed, and I'll ask that question when we get to action item C. Okay? Make sure I got the right one. There we go. All right. Anyone else for items on the agenda who failed to sign up at the beginning of the meeting? Now's your opportunity to step forward. All right. Moving on to the portion for agenda approval.
Move to approve the agenda as presented?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we were hoping to remove action item E if possible.
Okay. One moment, please. Okay. I'm trying to play Mr. Fredericks right now. Sorry.
The agenda, and then when it comes to the
Yeah.
action items, we can
That-
take that one off.
That sounds good. So I'll jump in at that point. So we'll move forward, and I will jump in and make a plea. How about that? All right. So agenda. Motion on the floor to approve the agenda by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
All right, agenda's been approved. Moving on to reports of standing committees, Public Works.
Okay. We had a meeting
Rand.
this evening, and we discussed the Scott Avenue Water Railroad Crossing, BNSF Railroad application has been submitted for increased water line crossing. Current 4 casing requested 24-inch. So the lift station replaced the one pump in March, ordered another pump to be replaced by June, replacing the 3rd pump next year. But the 2nd pump is being scheduled for next week. So the Jet Rod truck and trailer, they've received 2 quotes for brand new vehicles on both. And they're still looking at bids. They think they might get something that's a little bit better than that, so we're still working on that. And Gorik 503 interchange scheduled to start in September. Catch basin clean out repairs scheduled for from the 17th through the 28th of September. Repairs are scheduled to come back for a lump sum bid for the week of September the 19th. Redwood Court, we're doing one in front of the chiropractor on B Street ourselves, and this hasn't been done for over 3 years, so it's time we got to work on that. So, street sweeping is planned for November. Curb painting continues throughout town between the 17th and the 28th, weather permitting. Torch down, completed all except a couple locations, will continue for completion by month end. Railroad crossing on Davison, North Pekin side, and Lakeshore Drive. Garbage rates are going up a little bit. We've got a thing in here from Mary explaining that. Make a Difference Day is October the 27th this year. And under grant, let's see, I'm not going to do anything under grants. I'm going to let her do that. But that's it, I think. So.
All right. Questions for Mrs. Rounds? And I'll have a few notes when we get to you, just to kind of explain, since for those that aren't here and are listening at home, just to kind of expand on a little bit. Okay. Seeing no questions for Mrs. Round, moving on to public safety.
Public safety meeting was held August 20th at 4:30. Unfortunately, I nor Mr. Pasa were available to attend, so I'm looking at minutes.
Okay. Who else was there?
Ms. Janice would like to.
It's just that we kind of postponed any business because.
That's pretty much what it says.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
business was postponed,
Right.
and our next meeting will be September 17th at 4:30.
Okay. Thank you very much. Questions for Ms. Umber?
Just information, I will not be there that meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to human resources.
We met on August 20th at 5:30 p.m. We were informed that staff is moving forward to fill the 2 police officer vacancies. We have 2 individuals going to be going through the polygraph test in the next few days, and I'm not sure what the status is on that at this point. Also that the Woodland Police Officer Association contract negotiations are now in mediation, and the next mediation session is scheduled for September 26th of this year. Also that Heather Ferguson was hired through a temporary employment agencies to fill in for a clerk who will be on leave, and that was a budgeted item. Our next meeting will be September 17th at the Council Chambers Conference Room at 5:30.
All right. Questions for Mr. Benjamin? All right. Finance will be given at the next meeting. Moving on to reports of officers. I have not been here. Obviously, I've been gone vacationing, and I made it back from the hurricane. So thank you, everyone, for your very positive thoughts. It was touch and go, and thank you for whoever left this here for me this evening. Was that you? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. It's a big day.
One's for Heather.
Oh, one's for Heather as well. Why? It's a big day at the Finn household. 19 beautiful years of marriage today, and and she's very pleased with me all the time.
And your nose grows out the
And it grows every single
I
time.
have
Yes.
a fridge for sale.
Well, I'm starting to blush. All right.
Call me confirmation.
No confirmation needed. My word is truth. So I don't have too much. So questions for me. I've been back for probably about a week. So things seem to have moved along very smoothly. So thank you for everyone for stepping up with me not being here, and thank you to staff. They did a beautiful job while I was gone, as always. So, Mr. Boyce.
Okay. I also wanted to make sure everyone knew the WFOA Professional Finance Officer Award has been given again to our clerk staff, Mary Riff and Gina Anderson. And this is how many years in a row? It's quite a few. Yeah, it's like 15 or 16 years, so it's commendable.
Isn't there a plaque in your office, and
Yes, there
you
is.
just keep putting the years
I'll
on
put
there?
the sticker on
Just keep putting the years in there. Yes, absolutely.
So we're lucky to have that expertise in the city. Mr. Mayor, did you want to ask?
Yes, I just saw that after I punted the ball over to you. So yes, looking for anyone for a chamber update. I panicked when I started talking about my wife. See? I panicked. So, Mrs. Rounds, Mrs. Graham, anyone?
Well, it's just that Darlene did explain that, and I picked up and gave you the schedule for the speakers, legislative speakers. And also on, was it the 18th when, for that meeting, it will start right at 12. It is going to be the hour for the hour. No lunch will be served that day because of the expected crowd, but they have made arrangements if somebody would like to come in, place an order before noon, they can pick it up at 1 o'clock, and there is a 50% discount on your food. Or you can order after the meeting also.
We are going to have pastries and coffee.
Yeah, pastries and
water
coffee and water will
for
be
people.
provided. But that way they can have, well, they don't have the wait staff to wait on that many people.
Yeah.
And so there's allowed for more room for seating for people to come.
Okay. Any business being conducted this time that we need to know about?
We're getting ready to do new officers.
Yes, that's right.
We have to have our official
Nominations.
meeting in October, the first meeting in October. So we're looking for people that want to be on the board. So
Yeah, we're looking for board members and a second vice president.
Right.
Seats are open.
And what about the golf tournament? How'd that go?
that was a long time ago.
What's a long time? I haven't been here. I was there for that one,
Oh,
but
yes, you were.
It was a good time.
We reported on that, and that was a great,
Oh, good.
great time had by all.
The chief failed to kill me this time as well. He
Yes.
tried. This would be the second event that he tried, but it didn't work out for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Awarded that one?
No, I did not. So it looks like we're going through the through legislative time right now with the business chamber, and that it looks like that's your schedule is heavy with those types of events coming up through
They are very,
October.
very informative too,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Perfect. Awesome. Questions for chamber business? All right. Thank you, Mr. Boyce.
Okay, I also wanted to report that we're neck deep in the 2019 budget preparation right now. So it's going to be at a frenzied pace. Department heads have been getting their information in, and we're working with the clerk treasurer's office to get everything together. So again, a reminder, it will be a different format than you've seen in the past. We had requests from City Council to help simplify the process as much as possible. So we're looking at other jurisdictions, what they do in their budgeting process. Some jurisdictions that have won awards, so we're for being easy to use by both council and the public. So we'll be putting something together, and then we'll really want your input on what works and what doesn't, so we can improve in the future. Also to announce, the Civil Service Commission has a vacancy we've been advertising. So if someone is interested in serving in that capacity, September 10th is the deadline at this point. So please inquire at the website or call City Hall. Upcoming city and community events. I don't want to forget the VFW is holding a brunch Saturday, September 8th at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And this happens the second Saturday of every month, so we'll make that a permanent part of our calendar and encourage everyone to go. September 12th, we'll be having our employee recognition event. October 1st, 2018, the volunteer recognition reception will be held, I believe, before the city council meeting at 6 p.m. So we'll be asking our volunteers who will work so hard for the city to come in and be recognized. And that's what I have at this time. I know we have department reports coming up, so I'll keep it short and sweet.
Questions for Mr. Boyce?
Are we invited to the employee recognition event?
Yes, you are. I believe so, right? We invite council to the employee recognition event. We would love to have
Yeah, we'll
anyone who
We will
would like to
send
attend.
an email out with dates or time and location.
It'd be luncheon, or are we doing it here again in the chambers? 11:30 here. Okay. So if you can join us, that would be great. The employees would love to see you. I failed to mention as well, during the last council meeting, a request was made by a citizen for a phone call. Mr. Aaron, I don't know how to say his last name. Is it Burgess? Burgess?
I don't have it with me.
Yeah, I did call him back, just so everyone on the record that everyone knows that I did handle that. So that's been
Mr. Mayor, I
handled.
had
Yes.
one additional item.
Yeah.
In the HR report, you heard September 26th was to be the next mediation session with the Police Guild. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen on that date. We're searching for another date. There's a conflict that arose. So as soon as we have that date, I'll let you know. We may ask for a bargaining session in between, independent of the mediator. We're exploring different options to try to get the resolution in a quicker manner. So, just so you know, September 26th will not happen at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Ms. Randolph.
Nothing to report, sir.
Questions for Mr. Randolph? All right, you got off easy tonight. Mrs. Ripp.
Yes, so before you have what's happening in the clerk treasurer's department. Some ordinances and resolutions we have worked on or have finalized are ordinance 1409, amending the code for accumulation of garbage. That was adopted on August 6th. Ordinance 1415 were our 2018 budget amendments. That was final reading on August 20th. And tonight, ordinance 1416, the garbage and recycling rate increase, which is a 2.92 CPI increase pursuant to the contract with Waste Control. First reading is tonight, and we will schedule final reading for the 17th of September. We had on the agenda resolution 705 for RCO grant, and Tracy, I think, will cover that. Resolution 706, fees and charges, has been proofed and distributed in final version, so that is out and being updated on a number of different forums and the website. Under communication, social media, and that, we have performed a couple utility bill analysis for a couple of customers, as well as a number of others that have asked why their rates were going up. So a lot of it can be attributed to increased usage, and then a portion of it increased due to the 7% raise in rates. The second part of that is there was a tipping fee increase by Waste Control that was passed on from the county for the landfill that occurred earlier this year too, so that's also a portion of that. So we have reached out to some of those citizens that have asked and tried to explain it to him. We have coordinated for the demo permit with community development and public works on the meter removal at the Lakeside Motel for the YMCA project. Many of you may have seen the recent press release that went out from YMCA explaining what their upcoming process is going to be and timeline. So refer you over to that. We've sent out notices for the garbage rate increase and asked for public comment tonight. We coordinated the photos for Councilmember Benjamin and Attorney Randolph. A number of other notices were distributed, and I won't go over all those. And again, announce the employee volunteer recognition events coming up. We attended the birthday celebration for former Mayor Chuck Blum on July 28th, and that was a nice celebration. And also attended the grocery outlet grand opening as one of the chamber ambassador committee members on August 16th, and that was well attended by the public. We do have our ad posted for the Civil Service Commission, and we did onboard Ashley Fields, our new janitor. She is working and doing her part-time work for the city as a janitor employee. We also onboarded our new temporary employee, Heather Ferguson, in the clerk 3 position, and we have cross-training going on this month in anticipation of our other clerk going on maternity leave sometime in the first part of October. We've been working on a number of return-to-work documents for some employee-related off-the-job injuries. There are actually 3 different incidents, unfortunately, and trying to get our people back to work, but following the guidelines to get them back so they're productive for the city as well as watching out for their injuries as well. We did prepare the total cost of compensation report for 2017 and distributed those to employees. I haven't heard any feedback from any employees, so I don't know if there's any questions or comments or not. We are looking at personnel policy changes to incorporate the part-time sick leave policy that the state adopted and get that into our policy. And also looking at the exempt salary procedures and hoping to get those on the next meeting for HR committee. Under risk management, we processed an on-the-job injury for a police officer that occurred on August 8th. We are working with him to get that paperwork taken care of. We received our 2018-19 renewal documents from the city's insurance and are going to be working on that at the department level, and we're bringing that to council for action. We met last Friday and reviewed the Clear Risk Solutions and City Facility Risk Management Survey, and went over that in detail, reviewed that, made assignments for response and action for the items that are left to be completed. Under IT, we're still working on installation of our Office 365. There's still a few employees that are getting this upgrade. And under bids and quotes, our audit is scheduled, or is done now, and they want to do the exit audit or exit interview on Friday, September 14th at 10 o'clock a.m. and they're asking for a head count from council members that may be interested in attending. If you can get with me after the meeting, that would be good. And as Pete said, we're working on the 2019 budget prep. I resent final notice call for budget to a number of agencies and gave them until Wednesday to get those in, because we're missing a couple that I'm pretty sure weren't getting submitted. And the rest of it, I'll let you go through that. We're working on getting a surplus sales scheduled and that list finalized hopefully this week. And let's see, we have some upcoming training. The WFOA conference is going to be held down in Vancouver this year at the 3rd week of September, and myself will be attending and also sending 2 clerks down to the BARS training on a 1-day session, so I think that would be helpful for us. I attended the AWC webinar for the business license services, and we'll be bringing back the model threshold ordinance with assistance of the city attorney pretty soon. And then wanted to give kudos to Scott Summers and Dennis Grip for the smooth operation for our last water turn-off day, and Bruce Loneker for the late day reconnects. My staff reported that this is always a stressful day, not only for the citizens, but also for the staff. And they said that using our new electronic Google Docs and iPad is working fantastic, and it's really helped the process a lot.
Good.
And then also to Lori Cash and Jessica Hartman for helping Mary Parsons during the permit clerk's medical leave and going that extra step to help the customers with permit questions and cross-training, et cetera. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to.
Questions for Mrs. Ripp? As you can see, the clerk treasurer's office is the heartbeat of the city. Clearly, we appreciate all your hard work over there, and we know it is challenging, and we all can be challenging at times, and it usually ends up in your desk. So we appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. Chief Kelly.
The police department continues to work hard for the citizens of Woodland. We're on pace to set a record number of calls per service this year, probably close to, if not 10,000 calls per service. At the end of July, we were up to 5,000 change. So we're on that way. Some of the highlights that members of the department were involved in was participating in the Chamber of Commerce golf tournament. We had a family stop by and visit the police department. We gave them the 50-cent tour and provide them, the kids, with some goodies, and so that was fun. I attended the planning committee meeting, and it's kind of a debrief towards the end of wrapping things up, and Dennis and I came up with some common concerns that we had, and we're recommending those to the committee. I understand we had a meeting tonight, but this cut into our committee time, so I'm going to start going to the committee meetings on a regular basis so that we can just get ahead of it, so we're covered. I attended the Cowles County Opioid Summit in Longview, very informative. The Department of Health is very interested in solving some of our challenges when it comes to the opioid crisis in the county alone. We had one of our members participate in the car seat clinic, and everybody kind of knows who that is. And he's very involved in our Safe Kids community, not only here in Woodland, but elsewhere in the county. So she covers us very well. As far as personnel is concerned, we interviewed two potential, and Mr. Benjamin talked about that a little bit. We interviewed two potential entry-level police officer applicants. One applicant successfully completed the polygraph, and he's now in the background phase, so we're going to try to move forward quickly with this individual, as he's also a contender for the Cowles County Sheriff's Office. So hopefully we'll be able to wrap that up soon, and get in contact with the psychologist who's psychological examination. And Sergeant Keller and Sergeant Lipp participated in the back-to-school bash at the Woodland High School. That was great fun. The service that the community provides to folks that are preparing to go back to school was outstanding. It was way more crowded than it was last year. So it was an excellent turnout and a good benefit for our community. We continued our partnership with Kalama PD. Right now we have a new officer for Kalama who is in the third week of his field training here in Woodland, Detective or Officer Conquest, and Sergeant Keller are providing FDO services for him, and he'll be done on September 7th, and we'll kick him back to Kalama. Let's see. Sergeant Lipp and I provided training, and we also attended the Woodland High School staff training day that they had recently. The subjects that we talked about included the active shooter response, gang identification, narcotics awareness, and recognizing the signs of impairment. We also had help from the Washington State Patrol. Trooper Taylor came up and talked about drugs and impairment. And probably the most interesting part was we had one of the first responders, a police officer from Marysville, Pilchuck, that was on scene when it occurred, when the active shooting occurred. I think it was a fantastic eye-opener for the Woodland staff to realize, and he talked about the emotional conflict that he went through as it occurred because he knew all the kids that were involved. So it was, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about his emotional conflict that he went through. But I think it was a great opportunity for the staff to hear that. And I think that the product that he provided was exceptional because of he had a map out there and talked about the emotions that he went through as it was occurring. So it was a very good day for the Woodman High School staff. Of course, you guys are fully aware that I participated in the library fundraiser. I attended the Lower Columbia Police Science class on the first day of school for Kelso as a representative of the board for the police science class. Kelso PD kind of hosts that, but all the chiefs, the sheriff, the prosecutor, and a couple of the high-profile community members up in the Kelso area were there as well. It was very beneficial. And we also had a couple of officers present at the high school football games. And we're going to continue to do that as much as we can. Should call volume allow. We all know how busy we are. But we're going to continue to provide that quality service to the citizens of Woodland. Your police department is working hard.
Thank you, Chief. Questions for Chief Kelly?
I have a question real quick.
Councilmember Plaza.
Okay. Okay, we addressed this once before. It was a few months ago in reference to your active shooter training.
Yes, sir.
You've had a recent one. Was that open to any other agencies, or was it just the police department? Who all was allowed to go to that?
This was actually set up by the high school staff.
Okay.
And Mr. Eulencott set it all up. He coordinated with the Marysville folks, but I'm sure they'd be open to providing a presentation should council want to see that.
Okay, and yeah, no, that's, I mean, that would be, I think that would be good for all of us for sure. But yeah, I didn't catch that it was put on by the school.
Yeah.
And I know in the past I had some issues because the school didn't have an active shooter policy. Their main focus, according to the school board, was natural disasters. So I was just wondering if there's been any outreach to you since then regarding active shooter stuff.
Not since then. It's been in the works. Mr. Landrigan and I communicate on a very frequent basis, talking about these type of things. The set policy that you're looking for is not in place at this time. However, we are continuing forward to work on that.
But there's movement on it, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Perfect.
sir. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plaza. Any other questions for Chief Kelly? All right. Thank you, Chief. Pass along our appreciation for all the hard work that the police department's doing. We appreciate it. We know we're working on it. So hopefully we can get some help in there for them soon. All right. Thank you, Chief. Chief Jackson.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I provided a brief summary report as well as a few statistics there. Football season's back at the high school, so home football games, you can find our crew there on standby, so long as they're not out with other emergency calls. But they'll be there and working alongside with District 1 on some of those events there. We were also present with back to school bash at the good event there with the school and the police department. Back to school. Along those lines, we'll be in the primary schools coming up the week of October 8th for our annual fire prevention activities. Where we have activities and lessons for the students in the primary school. We have a volunteer by the name of Tom Cook who was directed our way through his retirement with Intel, and he's been a great asset taking along our community smoke alarm project, as well as some other outreach things. He's done fire extinguisher classes for a number of businesses. One of the most recent ones was support co-packaging for their staff on all 3 shifts, as well as anything with residential smoke alarm. Questions, installations, we get grants and some funding that allows us to provide smoke alarms for anyone in need, and we're just the guy that goes out and makes sure that happens as a plus. We started our labor negotiations with our firefighter bargaining unit, and that has started going well, and looks like we've got a positive relationship with both negotiations. We're scheduled to meet with the Cowlitz tribe to negotiate our contract with them. That continues to be a positive relationship. They've submitted a number of grants on our behalf that they have access to as a tribal nation, to help us with some capital equipment needs, so looking forward to hopefully some positive outcome on that as well. We are hoping to hear back on another grant for fire prevention and safety that would enhance our inspection and fire code program. We're hoping to hear on that this month. They had initially said it would be in August, but they started some of the additional awards, so hopefully we'll have some good news on that this coming month. We're planning a replacement for our breathing apparatus. It's a major capital expense, even with all of our combined agencies that have formed what's now the fire district. All of the breathing apparatus were purchased all at the same time. So the equipment that came from Woodland and Fire District 2 and Fire District 11, and that is all coming up. So we are planning for those. We submitted a grant, but aren't certain on complete funding of that. So that's one of the major things we're working on. Good news is that with the contract, that's not a city expense. That's a district expense that we'll be working on over the next year. Responses over the last year have been up a little over 3%, a little over 3.5%, really across the district. I think Woodland was a little closer to 4, just over 4% of increase in responses. With that, though, we've been fortunate response times have remained pretty consistent and on target with our standards of cover. Mutual aid response has been up from the previous year, and I've got a chart that shows a little bit of that information. We've now fully implemented fire marshal services for new construction projects in all 3 of the cities that we serve, and that's going well and helping us get information out to the crews and make sure that things are in line with our process. Working on our full capital facility and equipment plan that will be updated by the end of the year, and our high school fire cadet program has also started back up to start school. I think we have about 45 students from the high schools that we serve that are in that program. It's a regular high school class where they come to the department and they join high school and college. The last thing was a 2-sided thing with just a couple of graphs. It shows response types, specifically for calls in Woodland, as has been the case for some time. Rescue and medicals make up the majority of those calls. You can see Woodland continues to be our busiest station. I put a quick comparison with the other 2 cities that we serve, Ridgefield and the center. Woodland at 2 August was 591 emergency responses, compared to 341 in Ridgefield and 180 in the center. And then mutual aid responses. We've been continuing to work close with our neighbors. We've had a few more responses to Cowlitz Fire District 1, where they've had a few challenges, different times of day, being able to fill the response on occasion. With that, they've also been able to come help us with responses to structure fires and that. Year to date, there's been 33 incidents we've gone into their district. I think it's been a good relationship. We can help each other out. I know just last month we had a call in Woodland that we had a unit on, and then we had 2 calls in their district that we had 5 of our units on in their district all going on at the same time. So it's pretty busy. You can see the same thing with Cowlitz 5, which is Kalama, and their fire district as well. Blue are our responses into their district, and green are their responses into ours. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Questions for Chief Jackson? I have a question. When you look at Cowlitz 1 and Cowlitz, you said Cowlitz 5 was Kalama.
Correct.
Is it so? Cowlitz 1 is that similar to your setup now, or is that volunteer?
So Cowlitz 1, they have a paid chief during the days, and they are volunteer.
Okay. I should probably know that. Thank you.
So we do mutual aid across the district, so including everyone from Vancouver to Clark Fire District 3, to all of those. Our biggest mutual aid partners, Clark Fire District 3, which covers battleground pockets in the Brush Prairie and areas north up to the 503 corridor. We respond into their district about as many times as we do in California, and they responded to our district about that same number of times. Those are our 2 biggest mutual aid partners, Cowlitz Fire District 1 and Clark Fire District 3.
All right, thank you, Chief. Councilmember Rounds.
Why do you think it is that Woodland is so much higher than Richfield and La Center?
I think there's a few things that contribute to that. I think our demographic, by the nature of it, has a little bit higher call volume based off socioeconomic status and a few of those things that typically drive our call volume. I think other contributors are the position on the interstate and the commercial businesses in the area of the interstate, to where Woodland becomes a little bit more of a regional hub, if you will, even folks upriver and those sorts of things that get services in Woodland. Whereas if you get the center and Richfield, obviously the center, the city, to be in the city limits, you're ways off the interstate. It doesn't impact a lot of this within the community. Ridgefield is much the same. We'll get a fair amount of industrial traffic through there, not a lot of commercial businesses. It's really tough to pinpoint, but I can even speak from the time I came as the fire chief in Woodland. The response numbers in Woodland for the size of the community were astonishing. I know in the city of Woodland, when I came here, we were running about the same number of calls we ran when I was assistant chief in Astoria, a community operation about 10,000. And that was 6 years ago. And it's just continued to steadily climb up. There's some strange things. We have a high number of walk-in medical emergencies at the fire station, and I think some of that's our distance from emergency and minor emergency health clinics. It amazes me the number of folks that will drive in the community to the fire station seeking emergency health care, whether that's someone in their vehicles in cardiac arrest, or they've had somebody's overdose, or stabbing victim, anything you can think of. We've had those folks show up on a doorstep from places outside the community. So it's still a little bit puzzling, but it's interesting. I don't know all the reasons, but those are a few of my speculations.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else for Chief Jackson? All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Mr. Goddard.
So community development has had a busy couple months. So we are bringing the wireless communication facility ordinance, which was done by the Planning Commission in August. That'll be coming forward to, if not the 17th of this month, I believe it might be the 1st of October. So you'll be seeing that pretty soon. We issued the building permits for the ARCO across from the Taco Bell, and also the trailer depot across from the Taco Bell. So those have been done since our last update. We have several new applications that have come in the door, including the Belmont Loop storage facility inside of Belmont Loop, and also Sam Nigro's property, which is also on Belmont Loop. It's kind of the last little lot on the outside of the loop. B. Young RV, you'll notice that there's been some paving of their storage area, but they haven't started on their construction of their building. My understanding is their steel company that's supplying the actual building structure is falling way behind, and so they've basically done everything they could on that site without having the building in place, so they're kind of frozen in place right now. So that's why you don't see much activity out there. There's not really much we can do to help them get that started. We've kind of gotten as far as we can with them. Although there was one interesting note, and that is about 3 weekends ago, they came back to work and their excavator had been stolen off the site over the weekend. So they're, and it was the same weekend they said they had stuff stolen from their other site. Steel and metal was stolen off another site, so they didn't have a good weekend. We've also issued the building permit for we're almost ready to issue the building permit for the Columbia River carbonates pelletizing plant, so you'll start seeing work on that also. We've been updating our handouts to include the new fees and just to go back through and make sure that all of our references to code sections are correct, so we're working our way through those. You'll also notice on the quarterly report that I gave you that some of the numbers for the number of permits that have come through the door are simply for the first 2 quarters. And since July and August were so busy, we've ended up with 7 applications, and it might be 9 applications for comprehensive plan amendments by the time we're done. Our building permits, we've had 18 single-family residential, 18 single-family residential units and 5 multifamily units, and that has since changed. I think we've issued another 6 more, and we have about 20 in the drawer, so we may end up with between 30 and 50 residential units this year, depending on whether they, all the permits that are in the drawer, whether they start construction on those this year. We may have a down year compared to the last couple of years, so I've been assuming we'll have about 35 residential units this year. We should have about 30 next year, at which point there will be no more buildable lots left in the city. So I'm counting on Quail Homes applying for and getting approval for 36 units. That might give us another year's worth of growth. But other than that, there's just no residential land left in the city for development. So it's going to make for really interesting comprehensive plan discussions, trying to figure out whether we need to do some internal comprehensive plan and rezone map amendments or expanding the urban growth boundary. But it's entirely possible that we're going to have a building drop off in the next couple of years simply because there's no more land left to develop until we get utilities out into the industrial area, in which case we might see lower permit numbers but higher valuation depending on who's going to do some construction in those areas. Other than that, we have, I've been dealing with the school district, trying to get some involvement in the high school classes. One of the things I do in my own time is I'm on the Youth in Planning Task Force for Washington State. And so I try and get out into the local schools, middle schools and high schools, and teach them about planning, how it affects your community, how local government works. You know, you learn about the 3 branches of government, but you really don't, well, I shouldn't say you really don't. Often kids don't necessarily understand the connection between the signs that are in the yards during election time and how those people influence what happens in the community and the executive branch and the legislative branch. So part of our task force purpose is to get kids to understand how important local politics is and how to influence community character by getting involved with stuff like that. So I'm starting to talk with the school about getting into some classrooms now that they're back in session. So hopefully you'll hear some good news about that, some good feedback. And also our comprehensive plan update. We've got a bunch of applications in the door, potentially about 900 acres of urban growth area requests. So it's pretty considerable size that's being considered. So I'm starting to go through the applications and do some of the generic number crunching to try and figure out what the different scenarios are going to be. At the September 20th Planning Commission, we're going to be discussing about the public participation plan and the outreach that I'm trying to do and get people involved. And then on the October 18th Planning Commission, I will be talking about population projections, vacant lands analysis, growth scenarios, and some capital facilities discussion, figuring out if we are looking at certain population projections, how much land will we need, and then we need to work back through the calculations of how much water and sewer do we have, and if those calculations mesh. So we're kind of flying blind right now because our urban growth boundary is so small. We haven't necessarily had to do a lot of growth planning and facilities growth planning because we didn't have to worry about serving additional growth. But if we turn that model upside down and assume that we're going to start growing more aggressively, and this is whether it's job growth or population growth. We're going to have additional services, and we need to figure out when those services are needed and how we're going to pay for those services. But we don't really have the studies to kind of lay that groundwork because we don't have the growth in our comprehensive plan. So I think one of my major battles is going to be getting the Growth Management Hearings Board or the county or the Department of Commerce to entertain larger growth areas that are unprecedented for Woodland. They're going to want to know where our water and sewer is going to come from or where it's going to go. But we don't have that information because we haven't planned for it. So I literally need to pick sizes so that we can go back and plan for our water and sewer to verify whether or not we have enough land to accommodate that. So it's chicken or the egg situation. So that conversation is going to be starting on the 20th, and we'll be holding public open houses, public outreach. I've got a long list of people that I'm trying to get through. So school district, Viking district, Calais County Planning Commission, County Council, Clark County Planning Commission, Clark County Council, both of the planning departments for both counties, the fire, Clark County Fire and Rescue and their supervisor board, the school district and the school districts, the school board. So those are all on my list, and I've reached out and got on various agendas for each one of those, but at this point right now it's more of a discussion about what's coming down the pipe and for them to pay attention and give me input when the opportunity comes along. So we're starting that kickoff, so you should be hearing a lot about that. And that's it for community development.
Questions for Mr. Goddard? Ooh, all right, you're making me uncomfortable. Go ahead. Fire away.
That's a great question. So we, on the 20th, we're going to be talking about the public participation plan, and I will lay out some dates for public outreach. There'll also be articles in the newspaper. There'll also be legal notices, which are extremely fun to read if you're in that section of the newspaper. And we'll probably do some public announcements. Sorry? Yeah. Our website, and also notices that are posted around the city, whether it's at the police department or out in the hall here, whether we might put them up over at the fire station as well, if they have a board, local businesses that have boards, and the post office. So we'll do as much as we possibly can.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. All right. Should we take a quick 5-minute? I'm kidding.
Come on.
I'm kidding. Miss Coleman,
You
Public
always
Works.
save the best for last.
Yeah, always.
Right.
It's always a competition.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys haven't noticed the weather's been changing. Anybody enjoying this cooler weather? I'm not. We are stressed out, and we are busy, busy, busy. So public work is go, go, go right now. And that's because the weather's changing. We have 1 good month left to get a bunch of stuff done. Councilmember Fredericks mentioned that at the last council meeting with the additional funds that we would receive for road repairs, torch down, etc. And that critical timeline of being able to get projects done before the poor weather hits. So we're working this month. You'll see a lot of activity throughout the city in the next couple weeks with road repairs, etc. So be prepared for a little bit of discomfort for a years-long better driving experience. So with that being said, I did do some of the research on the crosswalk for Columbia at the last council meeting that we had residents complain about, and so I'm still researching some of that. I did find out the reasoning behind the actual ramp that was put on the sidewalk itself, and that was for the addition to be able to help ADA individuals go out to access their vehicles. It wasn't for a crosswalk. So I will share that portion of it, and I'm researching more as far as the cost to put a crosswalk in there, if it's feasible to put one in there, et cetera, so on and so forth. I'll give an updated comment on that probably at the next council meeting.
So we are in the process of awarding the contract for our water treatment plant improvements. So that's, the bids have been received, and so we're in the process of doing that. We hope to award that by the end of the month. And then we also, out in front of, on Scott Avenue, in front of Sagawa Nursery, we've had complaints in regards to fast speeds going through there. So we changed the speed limit signs, and we actually put orange flags out, and that has seemed to help. And we also, through the cooperation of the police department, put a "Your Speed Is" electronic sign out there, and we've slowed the traffic down on Scott Avenue there. We have our final operations and maintenance manual for our screw press project that we completed at the wastewater treatment plant in the final writing stages, and then we'll submit that to the Department of Ecology. We have had an internship with us all summer, Emilio, and he's here in the audience today, and he will be presenting what he has done with the city this summer, so council and the citizens know what their dollars have gone to. So I asked him to put a quick presentation together for us, and he'll be following up on that after I'm done giving you guys an update. The feasibility study is on here, and I've submitted that for council to approve. We actually have our asphalt repair projects with the additional funding that council and our city administrator has approved for us, has gone out to bid, and we should receive the bids back within 2 weeks to try to get the hot mix asphalt projects completed by the end of the month. And also, what I was talking about, the activity you're going to see down on CC Street between Pacific and Park, we're going to re-asphalt, and then also we're going to do the Davidson Alley behind the port, and then also we're going to be doing some chip seal on 2nd Street. So that'll be done as well. So you'll see some of that activity going on around town. If you guys have been to Horseshoe Lake, you've seen the new bleachers that we have out there. We have 2 more sets of bleachers going up, and they look absolutely wonderful.
Is
So-
Virginia happy? That's all we care
Yes,
about. Is
of
Virginia's
course
happy.
Virginia's happy.
All right, just making sure.
And then also, let's see what else we have. And we'll have another 2 set going up by mid-October. In regards to grants, we came in 42nd, so we redid the grant for the RCO grant, and we upped our presentation, and we came in 42nd out of 91, so better than half. And last year they funded 1 through 48, so we're hopeful that we'll receive those grant dollars for our Horseshoe Lake. Then in regards to, in regards to the pedestrian bicycle grant and the Safe Routes to School grant, which is through Washington State and the feds, we did not make the 3rd round. We made the first, 2nd round. We did not make the 3rd round, but I'm excited about that because we have to have funds to match, and you always know my concern of being able to have matching funds. So we have another year to prepare. And then also, we can work on our engineering and geotech and right-of-way along State Route 503 to be prepared to have a higher score when we go for it next year. In regards to our Frank and Arlene Price Foundation grant for the flagpole, we have final engineering being done now. We had to access on top of the roof and see what was behind the foundation itself for the wall. And so we figured out what needs to be done there as far as the steel plate goes to hook the flagpole to the building itself. So that should be done and completed and installed with the flags by mid-October. So just in time for Halloween. And then also the Port of Woodland grant that we received our borders, and our chips will be delivered tomorrow. So we hope to have that part completed with the ADA accessibility by mid-October. And with that being said, does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions for Ms. Coleman?
Emilio gives his presentation and wows you.
Good.
I'm going to ask a couple questions real quick, Emilio. Torchdown, can you just explain Torchdown so those at home are curious what's going on?
So what Torchdown is a glass plastic, is it a glass plastic? Piece of material that you take and you set down on the ground, and you actually use a torch to fire it up to melt it to the road itself. So that creates your stop bars, your crosswalk lines. So you don't paint them on, you torch it down, they last longer.
Perfect, thank you. I knew what it was. I just we've been talking the last couple weeks about torch now. The screw press project. Are we seeing savings with that project
Yes.
yet? Okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
about $500,000
Okay.
a year.
So thank you to council for approving. That was a big project. Started with previous Public Works Director and Tracy seeing and getting the win for it. So good job.
I'll take it.
And then also, Councilmember Rounds mentioned money for a new vehicle. Was that a vac truck?
Yes.
A vac truck. Where are those? What is that funding source?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Is it?
I don't
I'm
know
assuming
yet.
it's coming out of. Is that the street fund or water
So
fund?
it
Most
would-
likely the wastewater treatment.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, just so you know, we currently pay for the city of Vancouver to come out and do our repairs on overtime hours and after hours. So for us, we're looking at what's the cost for us to pay them to continue doing that versus having our own truck and paying our own employees during regular hours or just our own overtime rates. Because when we have the city of Vancouver coming out, we not only pay for, if it is an after-hours call, our own workers, but we also pay for Vancouver's worker and their equipment.
Okay. All right.
And it's
Perfect.
happening more than not lately, so.
All right. Thank you for that. Further questions for Ms. Coleman before we move on to Mr. Emilio's presentation?
Oh, at the city hall. Yeah, we're required to have a state flag and a U.S. flag at city hall. Our annex. Yes.
Emilio. When's your last day? The 14th. All right.
So I'm losing 2 people this month. 2 more individuals from Public Works. We're losing our intern and our parks. So we will have nobody else in parks, and we won't have the extra help. Do you hear my crying? From the beginning. No, up top.
Actually, go down to the bottom. It's right next to the minus sign for the size.
Right there.
Yeah. One more. There you go. That's it.
There we go.
Yeah, it'll come.
There we go. All right. So this summer, first off, I'm Emilio Bogan. This summer I worked as a City of Woodlands engineering intern. I currently attend Lower Columbia College, and I'm a civil engineering major. Today I'll be presenting on the projects that I've been a part of and the knowledge I've gained from this experience. I'd love to thank all of you for this opportunity. It's been a great experience. So the first project I worked on and helped with was the sidewalk visual survey. This survey was to make a map of all the sidewalk locations in the City of Woodland and then distinguish between the 2 types of sidewalks that the City of Woodland has. The City of Woodland has 2 types of sidewalks, which are the planter strip sidewalk and a non-planter strip sidewalk. As you can see on the bottom left corner, the picture of a planter strip sidewalk is a sidewalk that has a garden bed right before the sidewalk in between the road. So I built that map. The next thing I got to be a part of, which was pretty fun, was the Consumer Quality Report. This report is used to inform our water consumers about our water treatment process, water savings technique, and what is currently in our water. For this project, I improved our template and updated all the data within the report. This template is now available for accessible. It's now available and accessible for future use. So,
Is that on our website?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
So it's a little bit of a step up from what we had before, but
All right.
I think it was also mailed out in June. Utility bills
Okay.
to every water customer.
So this summer, all the fire hydrants in the city were painted, numbered, and mapped. I assisted with the numbering of every fire hydrant and the collecting of data on fire hydrants that needed data to be collected on. There were some fire hydrants where we have a year that they were put in. We didn't know what the berry was and all that kind of stuff, so I took an Excel spreadsheet and just kind of collected all that for Jody and Tracy, and so we had all that information.
How many fire hydrants do we have in the city?
486.
Thank you. Testing you. Make sure.
did.
How come there's 487 that have been numbered? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Come on.
Okay, so this is probably one of my favorite experiences of the summer. I got to help Joseph Stanley right there again in the middle with his Eagle Scout project. So his Eagle Scout project was to help clean our fishing ecosystems of all fishing debris, fishing lines, all that kind of stuff. So him and I went and put up 2 of those finishing monofilaments that's in the left at Gorig Park and Horseshoe Lake Park. They're still there today. Him and his fly fisherman crew, they go out and they clean them once a month for the city, and that was a really good experience. I love that one. Light pole numbered. So all the cities' light poles are now numbered. That was kind of the first job I had for that. I got a map from the PUD, which is the one you see right there, of all the cities' light poles. So I went and took the number, had my sticky notes and put them all on them. I also found all the locations of light poles that were not on the map that the city owned. So I contacted Kelly Parsons, and she updated the PUD map, and it will have those new numbers coming in the next month.
That will be helpful for light replacement, correct?
Yes. Light
Okay.
replacement, damage,
Repair.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Repairs.
Quicker identification of who owns it.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
So office duties. So Kathy was away on leave when she had her surgery. I got to help out with office duties quite a bit. So I learned a lot about our permit system, backflow system, water meter system, answered a lot of phone calls, and really just got a really good feel for how the city worked, all the different departments. Got to make a lot of connections, meet people, talk to people that I haven't talked to yet. So I had a really good time with that. And it helped me out quite a bit. Off my part. So this was my first ever grant experience. I've never worked on a grant before or wrote one. So what it was we wrote a grant to replace the borders and park mulch at Hoffman Park. As if you can see in this right thing, you see that iron that was sticking out? It was in pretty rough shape. It was not safe. So we applied to the Port of Woodland, and we got approved, and it's funded, and it'll start next month. So it's pretty fun. The RCO grant. So this grant, Tracy had me revise the PowerPoint presentation from before. So I went in and I looked at everything that she made, and then I kind of spiced it up a little bit and made another PowerPoint presentation, and I used the manual 10A to kind of go through what they expected that they would score us on, and I tried to match our city up as best as I could with the scoring system. We also went and put up signs for community input, and I'd like to read one quote from Jay Ewart. Ewart, is that how I say it? Okay. My daughter, who uses a wheelchair for mobility, would get so much out of a splash pad. She is unable to use any of our many nearby rivers or lakes, as those are not accessible. She lives just a short distance from the park, so it would be perfect. The idea of her being able to participate in any activity with typical developing kids and be just like them brings me to tears. That's from Jay Ewart. Next one.
I just want to go back real quick and say that you spiced up Tracy's presentation. Is that correct?
Is that how you'd say it?
I want to verify. I want this on the record.
This. I told him the feedback that we received from the RCO, and I said, "Here's an example. Make it happen." And he did a very good job of it.
Well done, Emilio. Well done.
It's hard to spice up anything I have.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at right there.
You threw some glitter on it.
So this grant, the last grant I worked on, is for safe grade crossings across our Davidson and Westcott Avenue railroad tracks. So right now there's not really a safe place for people to walk or pedestrians to get across. We applied for 2 different applications, one for Westcott, one for Davidson. It's for about 200 feet on each side of the railroad crossing of sidewalk, and then safe panels to get over top of the railroad tracks. We have submitted them, and we will find out next summer if we are accepted or not accepted. So hoping for the best for that one, but looks pretty promising.
Awesome.
So the Trimble unit. So this unit on the left, that is owned by the Public Works Office, and basically what it does is you can go to any spot, like say you want to go to GPS's chair, hit the button, and it's going to give us an exact GPS location of that, and then we plug that into a computer, and have it pop up in one of our maps. See all those little dots, and it'll pop up right in the right location. So I was the first one to ever get to experience with it and like work with it. So what I did, since nobody else really had experience, first I went and I really understood it, and I wrote different tutorials on it. So if anybody else ever wants to go back and kind of see how to use it, or wants to watch a video, all that information's on the bottom. And I used it to go and GPS the remaining catch basins that I mapped in. So our catch basin maps is water valve mapping. So I should have explained this earlier, but all of our mapping is done through ArcMap. It's a computer system that uses longitude and latitude to create points. You can also geo-reference as-builts, so any property that's been built, when it's finished, you'll get an as-built, geo-reference that into it, and then you can figure out where the water lines are, water mains, sewer mains, water valves, all that kind of stuff. So I use that in the water valve. Water treatment plant. So I spent about 3 or 4 days up here just understanding the process of how we treat our water in Woodland. Basically, we draw our water from the Lewis River or the Randy well, comes up to the sewer plant, or to the water plant, sorry, and
Yeah, it doesn't go to sewer.
yeah.
Afterwards.
Spice it up a little bit.
Yeah. We don't need any spice in there.
So first one, the raw water gets up to this water plant. It goes through a polymer, and the polymer coagulates all the iron particles that are in there, so it makes them all stick together. And then it goes through a chlorine cycle, which disinfects and oxidizes it. And then you see these little blue, or sort of big in real life, the blue boxes down there at the bottom. Those are our multimedia filters, and it goes through that and kind of drains through it, and it'll go into a clear well where it's met with soda ash. The soda ash raises its pH, so it's at a safe pH, and then it also allows us to not have corrosion in our pipes. So after that, it'll go to the reservoir, and then it'll be served off to the community. The wastewater treatment plant. Yeah, this was my favorite experience of the summer, I gotta say. The people that work there, absolute great people, Derek and Bob. But the process itself is just very interesting. So the wastewater comes in, and it goes through a screening process, and then it drains into an SBR tank. And at the SBR tank, it has a bunch of different reactions, which mixes, gets the effluent water and then the solids, and it kind of pulls them apart. And then we take the effluent water, we run that through a UV ray, and it kills off all the pathogens, so we're at a regulatory rate for the Department of Health, and that gets dumped back into the river. The effluent channel water is actually cleaner than the water that we bring up to the water plant. So what we're putting back in is like 10 times cleaner, something like that, than what's actually in the river.
Did Derek offer you a cup like he did me?
A cup?
Yeah.
Actually, I got in
He
there,
said, "Go ahead and take a drink." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing
it.
it."
It was fun. We had a great time. And then see the building on the left in the top picture, that's the digesters and mixers. So that basically all the solids at the bottom of the SBR tanks get pumped into there. They continue mixing, and once they hit a certain point, they can go through the sour test. I don't really know the sour test. That's the one thing I don't think we'll cover. But anyways, the sour test tells us if it is considered a biosolid or not. Once it's considered a biosolid, we can send it off to be land applied or down to the screw press to get pressed out. That's I helped with the oil changes and stuff there too. That kind of stuff. Really good experience there. So Horseshoe Lake maintenance, this is kind of something that I've been a part of the past couple weeks. As you guys know, we had a milfoil problem about a year ago, so we got rid of all that. And right now the lake is like fairly bare bottom. So the Department of Ecology called and they said that we have to find a plant species to replace it with. I've been working with a few biologists to figure out the best kind of plant to replace it with. So I called George Fornes. He's a biologist with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. He hasn't got back to me, and we also met with what's Francis's last name?
No.
Yeah, from ESL. He came out with us today, and he said that he'll give us a good plant to use.
And don't forget to talk about the erosion.
And the erosion control. Well, he said it was like a mild to moderate. So he also went over and looked at the erosion around Horseshoe Lake. And he said that the beaches, or the sand part, that we should probably beach nourish it, because over time is going to get worked out. This would be the easiest way to save money for the city. And then along the side, maybe the farthest east on the north part of the lake, that is kind of getting pretty bad. So he said that we're going to need to make a long-term plan to put in a path and stabilize it with either willow trees, big blocks, that kind of stuff.
So we did such a good job getting rid of the milfoil, which we were not anticipating, that now we have to go and replant.
Not milfoil though.
Not milfoil, I don't understand that, but
all lakes need to have plantings in it, and so what
Okay.
we want to do is make sure that we have a healthy ecosystem.
Okay.
So there are certain plants that thrive in lakes that we would want to recommend that we don't have.
okay, okay.
Milfoil killed it all out, so now we got to put it back.
Gotcha.
So our fish got-
But nothing that tangles your legs or pulls you under.
So these are just some other skills I learned through the summer: PowerPoint, Office, Microsoft Office Word, Excel, and honestly, email. I didn't think that email was that important, but like, just even like, say I would get a phone call at the office, I'd have to make sure that I emailed, called the next person, just so we had like a evidence or like piece of information. I would have never guessed that was like that, but that's good. Yes, thank you. These are some of our pictures from the summer. My personal favorite is Tracy right there in the middle.
A little hard on the whiteout, huh?
A little bit.
I'd like to thank all of you guys for this experience. I've gained knowledge here that a classroom environment could have never supplied me with. I appreciate the city of Woodland for the rest of my life.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Come back.
Thank you.
Which I do have a little something for you here.
You guys don't think we do anything
It's
about
not
it.
much. It's not much. I kind of see you going for Tracy's job right now. I don't know why.
Go for it.
So highly sought after pen. And a button for the city of Woodland. All right. We appreciate everything you've done for us. You've done a lot in a very short period of time. Thank you very much. No, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Please come to our city.
I'll be there.
All right. Questions for Ms. Coleman or Mr. Emilio? We're good? All right. Thank you. So how long were you here?
I started full time June 17th. So,
Wow.
but I was here for like a month and a half before that, like once a week.
Okay. Wow, you did a great service for us. Thank you very much. For a very short time. Thank you very
I
much.
push them, man. I'm telling you. I
We can talk offline about the support that you received and maybe treatment. Yes.
I do want to mention a little bit, it's a really big street lighting, we've had some difficulties and issues because they aren't numbered, because a lot of your street lighting in the industrial area, there's no address. So, you know, having those numbers on there will really make it more effective for us to get the right lights and, you know, and even in the neighborhoods, some of the neighborhoods will be split between two addresses. The time savings alone that we'll get along with the numbering and all the projects that we haven't had the time, they've been great ideas, they've been on the list.
Yeah.
And just gonna get to it, get it finished, but it's worked out on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Ribb. All right. Reports of standing committees, Ms. Humber?
Unfortunately, I was not here, so I wasn't available to attend the last California Council of Governments. Our next meeting is September 27th.
All right. AWC, I have nothing. I've also been gone on vacation, but I encourage everyone to attend Business Chamber on Tuesdays if possible. I think that's our biggest outreach right now when it comes to the current election for our area and those that are going to be able to affect our future. DWR.
Our last meeting was held August 14th. Treasurer's report was presented and accepted, as well as the minutes from the last meeting. Hot Summer Nights raised $4,000 in sponsors, $673 in bucket donations, and $90 to be reimbursed from the city with hotel motel tax. Total net profit was $1,600. Discussion regarding 2019 Hot Summer Nights request for hotel motel funds will be $500 for advertising, and downtown Woodland revitalization request will be for flower baskets only at $40 per basket for 23 baskets. Next step on the downtown Woodland revitalization projects, discussion on the development of new strategic plan and goals, as most goals have been completed, the fishing dock pending. Communicate with businesses in the downtown Woodland revitalization area regarding next steps or of interest of projects and programs. JJ is working with Mary to get a list of all businesses from Mary for the downtown area. Vivian, Tom, and JJ will work together to create a cross-check list to create a downtown Woodland revitalization area member address book for membership. Tom will meet with Mr. Boyce to discuss the facade improvement project. Tom will chat with Erica Rodman regarding Open Up, and JJ will contact Jeanette on info used for on or who will be responsible for organizing and to oversee. JJ and Jennifer will check with businesses and names associated with the Open Up emails provided by Erica Rodman regarding contacts. I was not here for the Open Up
It was
either,
awesome.
but I understand that it was awesome.
It was
So
fun.
it's that's a really good thing, so we will continue to do that. And our next meeting is next Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, and anybody that'd like to come, you are invited. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I've noticed some activity in downtown as well with some new businesses opening up or retail spaces that are being taken or being occupied. And I even saw a request for another spot in downtown. So that's good.
Pictures and windows, and
Yes.
not to have any open or empty windows anymore.
Mr. Gola's paintings were left behind in Centennial Building from the Open Up event, and I think that looks wonderful as well. So nice job. Keep up the great work. Moving on to consent items.
Move to approve the consent items.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Will clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
All right, consent items have been approved. Moving on to action items. I ask that council, when it comes to action item E, that a motion be made that we send it back to staff for further preparation. We're just not ready yet. Is that fair enough assessment? We just
We
need.
had some requests for contract changes, and we
Okay.
need to evaluate this.
Gotcha. All right, moving on to action item C. Ordinance number 1416, garbage rate increase for CPI.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Humberg.
Has to be done.
Okay, Councilmember Rounds.
Agreed.
Further discussion? Mr. Benjamin.
Quick question. I remember when Waste Control was here seeking an extension of the contract, that they said the rates would stay the same, but I'm understanding that the CPI adjustment was already built into the contract, so it is staying the same.
And then I think the audience had asked about contacting Waste Control. We do have a link on our homepage of our website that's for missed pickups. You can also call the office. We send those in on a daily basis to Waste Control. If they get in early enough in the morning, they'll have an afternoon truck that'll come by and pick those up. Our number is 225-8281. You talk to them in the courts, they answer, and they can help you. Or, again, you can go to the city website, click on that link, and it'll take you, and it'll log that information and send it out in the routing system.
Thank you, Mrs. Ritt. Mr. Plaza.
Yeah, I just want to, before we go to vote, just clarify a couple things, and it kind of addresses towards what you were concerned about. I'm just read a couple at one a city ordinance real quick, and then jump into it. And I'm not going to read all the numbers. Okay, whereas ordinance number, there's like 4 of them, and subsequent ordinances provide that rates, charges, and fees relating to the collection of garbage and recyclable material be established by action of the city council. And then in the summary statement, it says that Waste Control is requesting a rate increase pursuant to their contract. Both of those kind of imply that the city council is in charge whether or whatnot rates get increased or not. My understanding from discussions we've had in previous meetings is since Waste Control is a private entity, and they pretty much have a monopoly in the area. They can do what they want. Our vote, from the way I see it, is mainly symbolic. We can all vote no, and Waste Control will still raise rates if they want to. So, I mean, if it's up to me, the Sydney ordinance would be changed a little bit because it does give citizens the impression that we have some control over what's going on, when in this situation, really we don't. So, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Plaza. Further discussion? All right. Ms. Ripp, just for clarification for the record, and I'm not jumping into debate here,
No.
but what is the amount of increase per month
On
to
the
a homeowner, just so we're clear?
So on the cover sheet, for garbage and recycling, it would be 21 cents per month.
Okay.
For a 60-gallon recycle and a 60-gallon garbage. And they did a comparison for a small commercial, and that's 37 cents per month.
Okay.
The contract that was renewed with Waste Control was opened up for bids. We received, I believe, only the one from Waste Control, and it was negotiated and approved by the council. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Ripp. Further questions or discussion on action item C, ordinance number 1416? All right, will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Nope.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
All right. Action item C has passed 5-1. Moving on to action item D, authorize mayor to sign agreement for mixed zone study with Gibbs and Olson. And I want to go back real quick and clarify a statement you made, Ms. Coleman. You said that the feasibility study was on here this evening. That was at the last meeting during your report. Yeah, I think you meant mixed zone study. And I made a note and I forgot to come back to that. I apologize. So this is for the mixed zone study with Gibbs and Olson.
Move to approve?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Humberg, second by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Humberg.
That's something that we've gone over, and this is the best that we can do for our city, and we need to get it done.
Councilmember Chapman.
No comment.
Further discussion? All right, will the clerk please take the vote on action item D?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
All right, moving on to action item E, authorize mayor to sign agreement with Natural Selections Farms for biosolids hauling.
I make a motion that we send this back to the staff for further work.
Second?
Moved by Councilmember Rounds to send action item E back to staff for further analysis, and seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Rounds.
No comment.
Councilmember Plaza.
No comment.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please take the vote on action item E to send back to staff?
Councilmember Humbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Benjamin?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
All right, action item E will be, I guess we failed in that motion. When will it be brought back? Next meeting, is that correct?
Well, Tracy and I will take a look at it tomorrow to see exactly the changes that they want, and then we'll work with Pete in terms of whether that will be next time or sooner.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. All right, we've come to the portion of the meeting for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is 8:46. Thank you, everybody. And what is there? Is there?
There's two, yes. One for you and one for Heather.
Oh my goodness.
She showed me the email, but I'm gonna go back, and what they want to do is forget all the changes we don't do with the original.
Yeah,
So I wanna
that's in the
see
email that I see.
Yeah.
Oh, you want that?
We'll figure it out.
If somebody doesn't want the other one.
I can give you the electronic version of that.
Thanks for coming.
Well, I want to make sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's our public works manager.
No,